I'm Mike.
I'm Jason.
This is Snake Envy. Anything exciting happening this week? Did that African house snake lay?
Not yet.
Not yet. She'll lay anytime. Otherwise, everything progressing well in terms of getting ready for pairings?
Yep, we'll probably get a couple pairings this week. We'll see. We're going to feed today, and then we'll let them digest, and then we'll see who's ready. I think
Fantastic.
I have a bunch of rat snakes and milk snakes in pre-ovulation sheds, so
Nice.
they're ready to happen.
Fantastic. So, you and I get asked a lot of questions all the time on social media or when we're at reptile shows or obviously on YouTube and whatnot. We get questions on the channel. There's always things that we assume everybody knows. You know, snakes have been kept captively now for decades, and there are some things you just kind of assume everybody knows, and then you learn no. There's also a lot of mythology out there that just hangs on. You would think with social media and how easy it is now to spread information that a lot of that mythology would disappear, but it really doesn't. So what's an example of something that you learn constantly people really don't know about snakes in general or breeding or whatever?
Because what I deal with is mostly North American colubrids. The one species in particular I get, but it's all Pituophis. It's all, king's milks, rat snakes, all this stuff in North America. And I get people that I just want a pet snake, and I want it to be a female because they get bigger.
I want something bigger.
They get bigger in the mouths.
Yeah.
So.
It's actually not true for more species than it is.
Yeah.
So what are some examples of North American species that are sexually dimorphic? And for those that don't know, that just means that females outgrow males. They get bigger than males. In some species, it's pretty dramatic. But
and it can be visual too. It can be colors.
It can be, exactly.
Like birds are,
Birds are sexually
males.
dimorphic that way, yes.
Hognose is the first one that comes to mind because those males are so little.
They are. When you see the females and males together, it's pretty. The females particularly thicker, girthier. The females are just massive compared to the males. What's another one?
I think garter snakes are as well.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on every species that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one that comes to mind. There's not that many.
No, in North America, I mean, the honest truth is when it comes to kings, when it comes to rats, when it comes to corns, which are part of the rat family, Pituophis, as you mentioned, they're not. But these myths hang on.
Yeah.
Now, I will say in captivity, there are some breeders that have a proclivity to feed females more than the males, and occasionally you'll see some bigger than normal females, but it's not a naturally occurring thing. And in general, you could feed your males and they're going to be as big as the females.
I get it with bull snakes more than anything.
Yeah.
I want a female bull snake because it's going to get massively bigger.
I want the 7-footer.
I have giant males. I've had males bigger than my females. So.
And we're going to show you one here in a bit. Yeah, I've got 2 male pits at home, and I had a female who recently passed, but I have 2 males at home. They're both over 6 feet, and they're both still growing, still young. So, I mean, it's I hear it a lot with king snakes. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think that about king snakes for whatever reason, that the females are going to get bigger, and they just don't. I've had males, females throughout my life. They've always been roughly the same size.
Yeah, and it's an individual thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. And like we say, no matter how many times you tell people it's not true. Now,
Hangs on.
how many customers ask you that and you tell them, no, that's not true? How many of them won't believe you?
I don't know how many don't believe me, but it's like I get annoyed with it because it's like
Yeah.
you don't want to sell lone females, like,
Right, right.
and it's just like I want a female. I'm not gonna breed this. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it,
It's a
but I
fact.
have to have a female. It's
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They act similar.
Now, within Pituophis, though, one thing that is interesting is that there are species that get significantly bigger or stay significantly smaller than others. So, like Pacific gopher snakes, for example, they're typically quite a bit smaller than some of the other Sonoran gopher snakes. I mean, among gophers,
They're bigger.
they're big. They're pretty much bull snake size.
I have a. We'll show you this one too, but I have a Sonoran gopher as big as any of my bull snakes.
Yeah, yeah. He does. It's a big one. And so, yeah, I mean, the other thing too is in North America for wild snakes, generally speaking, the further you go east, snakes get bigger. There's exceptions, obviously, and obviously there are smaller species that live back east. And I'm sure there's exceptions where you come out west and there might be one species that, for whatever reason, gets giant in the west, just like the Sonoran gophers. But generally speaking, as you go east, you have a lot more. We live out in the
There's a lot of
deserts and the
smalls,
high
yeah.
mountains out here in the west, and the prey is less plentiful. The prey tends to be smaller, and so, you know, eastern diamondbacks get bigger than western, and that's true of a lot of
Indigos.
snake species. Indigos, yeah, I mean, and that's typical, and
Not
that's
that they live out west, but
right, but yeah, I mean, they're a big species that lives in the southeast, and that's why, like bull snakes, for example, generally tend to be bigger than the gophers. You get out there in the Midwest, and the prey is just more plentiful. The prey is bigger, and the bull snakes generally get larger. But for whatever reason, the Sonorans, they get big.
they can. Yep, and then you get your little island species that are, 2 feet long.
Yeah, exactly, off the coast. Yeah. All right, that's a good one. Yeah, that's one of those myths that kind of refuses to die.
Yeah.
And throughout the world, yeah. I mean, there are plenty of sexually dimorphic species.
Boas are a huge one.
Exactly, no doubt about it.
This guy, this is a Sonoran, and he is a big snake. That's a robust Sonoran. I don't know if we can get him to stretch out, but I bet he's dang near 6.
He's definitely in the ballpark of 6.
Yeah.
And but look how thick, look how
But
big.
look at the girth on this
Yeah.
guy.
Big snake. I think if people didn't know what he is, they'd probably assume bull. For mine, this is an interesting one. I think this is a really fun topic because I just run into people continuously who have never heard it. They do not believe me. I admit it sounds a little ridiculous, but capillary action is the primary way that snakes drink. And we're going to get into whether that's the only way or whatever. So for those who don't know, what is capillary action? Capillary action is why a sponge works. So if you take a sponge and you just sit it in water, you don't have to do anything. And the way the sponge is built just draws water into it. So you don't have to push the sponge down. You don't have to squeeze it. It's not like an eyedropper where you have to create suction by pressing it and then releasing it. You don't have to do anything. You just put a sponge in water, and next thing you know, the sponge will be full of water. If you cut a flower stem and you put the flower in water, same thing. The internal of the stem is designed like a sponge, and the water just makes its way up. So even though there's no roots left, and the flower is dead technically, it'll still soak up water and hang on for a while. So snake skin in general is waterproof. If you spray a snake with water, it beads up and it just rolls off, and the water can't penetrate the skin. But the loose neck skin serves two purposes. It's loose so that they can swallow big prey, but it's also loose and it sort of works like a sponge to soak up water. So the water actually goes to the back of the throat where the muscle contractions that pull food down grab the water just like food and take it down to the stomach. It sounds nuts, right? That snakes can just soak up water. And
Amphibious, almost.
repeatedly I have conversations with people about this. They've never heard it and they don't believe me. I do encounter some people who are familiar with it. Now, the question has always been, biologists pretty much agree universally that snakes do this, but the question has always been, is that the only way that snakes can drink? So, what happens when you feed an adult snake, like a leftover hopper or small mouse that somebody didn't eat? Like if the prey is too small, what do you notice?
Too small? Well, they just gobble it down.
Well,
Like,
sometimes, but in a way it's actually harder for them to get it because they got to kind of maneuver it around, get their teeth
I guess it depends on size, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking too small.
Okay.
Like a hopper.
Okay.
If you gave an adult bull a hopper, it actually struggles with it more than it would a big rat. There's two reasons for that. One, snakes do not have a sphincter muscle or muscles in their throat, so they don't swallow the way we do. They rely on that jaw action in their teeth to push prey back, and then the muscle contractions grab it. So it's a push and a pull to get prey down. Once the prey gets past the throat, then the muscle contractions and away it goes. But snakes don't have the ability to just swallow like we do. If they could, then that hopper would just, it'd be gone. And so they actually have to kind of maneuver that hopper the same way they would a big prey item, and it's a little more challenging. So that raises a question. If snakes can't swallow, then can they gulp water? Like just open their mouth and take water, and what would happen to it? It would probably just run back out. Biologists have another theory because all snakes have that opening at the front of their snout that they flick their tongue through. And so biologists have wondered, well, maybe they use that like a straw and they can suck water and shoot it into the back of their throat.
Didn't do that.
And then away they go. It definitely looks sometimes like they're doing that.
It's a good gulping.
So that's the theory, is maybe they can generate suction. But if you think about the way we drink, if you think about, okay, so if you have a dog or a cat, number one, they can't gulp it either. They have to use their tongue, and then they kind of throw water back, but they can swallow it. Birds typically take water in their beaks, and then they raise their beak, and they just kind of let gravity do it. So birds are kind of set up similar to rodents, or similar to reptiles, where maybe they can't swallow per se, but they can swallow food. But water is usually like a gravity thing. So I'll link it in the description, but what a group of biologists tried to prove is with very large constrictors, they put sensors in the roof of their mouth and they tried to measure whether they could suck water through that opening like a straw. And as you can imagine, trying to get sensors in there, it didn't work very well. So their results were inconclusive. So what we know for sure is that snakes do drink via capillary action. What we don't know is if that's the only way. But what happens when a dog drinks? Number one, it's really loud.
It's messy.
It's messy. Water goes everywhere. So if snakes were able to kind of gulp water, they can't use their tongue, but maybe they could just kind of gulp it. It seems like it would be loud. It seems like it would be a little messy. But when snakes drink, it's neither. It's not loud or messy. You also don't see them blowing bubbles, which I would think you might see if they were sucking.
Yeah.
So what I would encourage everybody to do is the next time you catch your snake drinking, watch real close and see what's going on and see if you really think they can do anything other than absorb it. Their chin and neck are always down in the water. And like Jason says, it does look like maybe they're swallowing. But the theory is that that's those muscle contractions, and it's just kind of reverberating into the jaw.
Because I've seen like where I've had a snake out of water, and you pour it in there, and it's like thirsty.
Yeah.
And they'll put their head right up in there.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah.
But it's not, you don't, I like, there's 500 snakes in here. I rarely ever see any drink. I almost never.
Even with display enclosures at home, we all know this. Like it's rare to kind of catch snakes drinking, but when you do, watch it and see what's going on, and you'll see that there's not a lot going on at the front of their mouth. Like they're not opening and closing their mouth. Everything kind of stays still, but you see some movement back here.
On the side of the jaw.
On the side of the jaw, and that's probably those muscle contractions just kind of reverberating into the jaw. But if you watch, it's really fascinating when you know that. I've also posted a short at one point of my green tree python drinking off of his body.
Oh, nice.
And what you notice is that he just takes his chin and neck and he just rubs it along his body. And so same thing. He's not, grabbing water with his mouth. He's just rubbing his neck along it and the water disappears. So that's that capillary action. It's actually a really cool evolutionary adaptation because if you live in trees and you don't want to be going down to find water all the time, you just drink it off of leaves or you drink it off your own body. And there's really cool videos all over the web of desert species, like rattlesnakes, for example. They'll coil their bodies up when it's raining and it kind of forms like a little bowl. And then they can just take their nose in there and their neck, and they can just scoop, soak it up. So
soak it up. You don't get dirt. Going through.
Exactly. And the other advantage of that is when you do have just a little bit of water still left on the top of the sand, the snakes can crawl over that and take up the water and not the sand, where a fox or whatever, it'd be really difficult to lap up that water without getting a bunch of sand. So it really is a cool adaptation. But the question is, can they drink other ways? We don't know. But yeah, I highly encourage everybody, watch when you catch your snakes drinking. When you're watching them through this lens, it's actually really cool to watch them drink. I theorize that part of the reason snakes soak sometimes, obviously it's for temperature. They try to cool off, they get in the water. Yeah. But if you're in the water and your head's under the water, they're taking in water. So it's a very easy way to drink as well. Humid hides. There's probably a variety of reasons snakes like humid hides. It's probably just comfortable sometimes if it's super dry. But they can easily drink condensation that's on the side of the hide while they're hiding. And so water in the wild is a vulnerable thing for animals. Like if you go to a watering hole, the predators know that everybody goes to the watering hole. So oftentimes when animals drink in the wild, it's kind of a vulnerable deal. And big animals have to kind of kneel or lay down in order to get into the water to drink. And so predators know all this. And so predators very often hang around at water holes. So it's possible snakes like humid hides because they can go in there, hide, feel safe, and then just take up condensation all over the hide. So anyway, capillary action. It's really an interesting thing. And I find a lot of people still don't know about it. So like, subscribe, comment. Tell us what is something that you always assume everybody knows, whether it's about a specific species, whether it's about herping, whether it's about snakes, breeding, but you're continually surprised to find out people don't know, and people, maybe they don't believe you, like with the dimorphism.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. He's the same size as that Sonoran.
And what is this?
This is a albino bull snake. Hypo and albino at the same time.
So both males, 2 different species, both huge.
Like, he's pushing 6. I've had some 7s, but currently no.
Big boys. So those of you wanting pets, number one, there's a reason Jason doesn't want to sell you just a female.
There's usually a male heavy problem in the industry. Like, you usually have extra males, and so there's always males kicking around, less likely to have females kicking around. Occasionally you get a lopsided clutch and you're happy to sell a lone female. I am when that occurs, but you know.
You want to give breeders a chance to buy pairs.
Yeah, and there's people that will buy trios.
Yeah.
That's a very common thing. So
yeah. So there's that. But rest assured, folks, you buy that male, he's going to get just as big as the females. Particularly as pets, where they're feeding well, they're not always brumating, they're eating year round.
correct.
They're going to get big.